сейчас, чтобы у меня просто не было домашнего моей булочки. Спасибо.
Ігоря, у мене панелі нема. Перекладача.
Пане Анатолію, як у вас з'явилась панель? Працює? Колеги, чи чутно мене? Хто-небудь?
Так, добре чутно. Як мене чутно, видно?
Це англійський канал.
Гарний бекграунд.
Чутно. Мгм.
Дякую.
А мене чути?
Чути, пані Льова?
Дякую дуже.
Доброго ранку.
Фантастичний зв'язок.
Добрий ранок.
Доброго ранку. Всім успіхів сьогодні. І бажаю цікавої презентації учасникам.
Все в твоїх руках. Команда сьогодні головні герої. Важко повірити. 3 роки дуже важкої праці з вашого боку і 1,5 години презентації. Щось неспівставимо. Щось тут не так.
По півгодини на рік.
Так.
Це як коли заходиш у приміщення після ремонту. Все так виглядає, начебто воно завжди так і було. І ти навіть не відчуваєш, скільки там праці.
А праці не видно, да. Це правда.
Да.
За 4 хвилинки будемо починати.
А як це нема? Світлана пише, нема кнопки відключити звук. Як таке може бути? Це стандартний інтерфейс, повинно все бути. Зрозуміло. Тоді виходить, що адміністратор, адмін може відключати. Ага, в чаті. Ясно. Так, можливо, так і є. Вітаю вас, пані Ірино, вітаю вас.
Пане Ігоре, я прошу додати посла Генріка Вілецена до панелістів з можливістю виступати.
Так, є.
Дякую.
Колеги, залишилося 3 хвилинки. Ми маємо вже близько 70 учасників. Я думаю, що я можу почати деякі технічні ремарки.
I think just to make some technical remarks to be said. Good morning to all who have joined us already. I remind you that the working language is the Ukrainian language, but some remarks will be made in English. During the event, there will be simultaneous interpretation. In case you need, please choose the language of the interpretation by pressing the icon of the globe interpretation at the bottom. Choose the language, turn off the original audio and remain within the same mode. If you have the opportunity to, if you don't have the opportunity to choose the language, please leave the Zoom and then again join.
Welcome everyone. Working language of our event is Ukrainian, and some speakers will talk in English. Simultaneous interpretation is provided. Please choose the language in the bottom of your Zoom window and switch off original audio. Сподіваюсь, всі могли перевірити налаштування. Захід.
I think you should. The event is held in the form of the webinar, and we have the panel of the speakers and the group of the participants. Please use the opportunities of the Zoom platform. You can express your greetings or questions or comments by using the feature chat, and use the function raise hand if you want to intervene. So we start. For those who have joined us, I will try to remind, please choose the required language at the bottom of the window. Technical specialists will help you in case there are some challenges you met. Write in the chat.
Zoom window, interpretation is provided. Радий вітати всіх.
It's my pleasure to welcome you. My name is Alexander Sadovsky, consultant of the OSCE and the National Coordinator on the Chemical Security and Safety Projects. I'm interested to moderate this online presentation. Our event is being recorded. The reference to YouTube translation you can find on the official website of the OSCE PCU or on the web page in Facebook. So, distinguished participants, we start the final event on the introduction of the package of the projects on enhancing the chemical security and safety in Ukraine, which is named Chemical Security and Safety in Ukraine, legal framework, border guard control, laboratory opportunities. It's my honor to inform you that in this event participated by representatives of Ukrainian authorities and Ukrainian organizations, and representatives of the national organizations, donors and partners of the partner. Also representatives of the NGOs, representatives of the industry, as well as independent experts. On the whole, I see we are over 80 participants in the session. I would like to thank all who have joined us. Now I'll inform you about the agenda of our event.
Сергій, можливо, ви мені допоможете.
Sergey, could you possibly help me? To share the screen. Under the agenda, others to have the welcoming remarks from the coordinator of the project of the OSCE in Ukraine. Then a presentation to be made, accomplishments under the project. Presentation should be made by Sergei Petrov, manager of the project. Presentation of the report on evaluation, Ms. Lyubov Margolin, evaluation report presentation. It will be all carried out within the first hour of the event. Then we have provided for 25 minutes for discussions. And wrapping up, on the whole, we plan that event will last an hour and a half. And now, it's my great pleasure to give the floor to the introductory remarks to the head of the coordinator's office, Ambassador Henrik Willitsen.
Thank you very much, Alexander. Good to be with you all this morning. Distinguished guests, dear colleagues and friends, ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to welcome you today to share results of 3 years of work on strengthening Ukraine's chemical safety and security. The results that we'll talk about today would not have been possible without the active role and involvement of many Ukrainian national stakeholders and the generous financial contributions of the European Union and the United States of America. I extend special gratitude to contributors of funding and every person and institution involved in the implementation of this project. The Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, with its comprehensive approach to security, treats chemical safety and security as one of the top priorities, and we've done so for many years. We help OSCE participating states and partners to implement the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1540, an international obligation. Ukraine is an industrially developed country And that involves a number of risks related to hazardous materials used by enterprises in production or moved across borders. We also should not forget about the potential threats from terrorists and criminals that may consider exploiting gaps in chemical security systems. Finding and closing these gaps is an imperative for the safety of millions of people working in the industrial sector or even living in the vicinity of enterprises. And we hope that with our help, our joint efforts, Ukraine will be in a better position now to address these threats than Ukraine was a few years ago. It's been a long road to get here. In 2016, OSCE experts, together with national stakeholders and the OSCE Conflict Prevention Center in Vienna, conducted a comprehensive review of Ukraine's chemical safety and security. This review identified a number of priority areas, 4 of which translated into specific projects in the chemical safety and security domain. On regulatory frameworks, border control, analytical laboratory capacities, and emergency response. Let me say a few words about at least 3 of these areas, or in a group of 3. 1, on legislation. Given the growing trade in chemical products, governmental control over their circulation is extremely important to prevent misuse of chemicals and to reduce the risk of accidents. The developed comprehensive legislation on chemical safety and security will lay the foundation in Ukraine for safe chemicals management. From the European Union's experience, the implementation of such regulation is a gradual process, the success of which is based on close cooperation and effective dialogue between the state, business interests, and the public. We are happy to have been part of that process, and I thank all our partners very much for their active participation. On border control, we supported Ukrainian border and customs activities to strengthen control over hazardous materials, chemicals, and use dual-use materials crossing state borders. OSCE experts, together with representatives of border guards and customs, developed a training program that is aligned with best practices of the European Union and emphasizes interagency cooperation. This line of our activities supports implementation of the Security Council Resolution 1540, which I mentioned before, thus enhancing Ukraine's capacity on detection and identification of controlled and toxic materials crossing the state border at land border crossing points, seaports, and airports. Thirdly, the OSCE Project Co-ordinator, our mission, worked together with our Ukrainian partners to develop regulatory documents for the National Reference Centre that was established in 2019 at the facilities of the Medved Research Center, one of the most advanced chemical analytical establishments in Ukraine. With generous support from our donors, we also supplied a modern high-resolution chemical analytical instrument to the National Reference Centre. This will enable national authorities to have credible analysis of hazardous materials, which is crucial for saving people's lives during emergencies. Ukraine is on the right path, but this is only the beginning of the road. We have great challenges and great opportunities, and with our joint efforts, with the help from all of you, from all of us, we will get there. We encourage government agencies, chemical industry representatives, scientific institutions, civil society, and international organizations to unite their efforts and keep up the momentum to strengthen Ukraine's chemical safety and security and continue this work. I thank all of you involved in the implementation of these projects for your commitment and for your support and for your friendship during this process. And I wish all of you a great day of discussions. Thank you very much.
Дякуємо, пане посол.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for your kind words. And now I would like to move to a section where my colleagues will inform what we have managed to succeed during a 3-year period of implementing the project, how to strengthen its results. The floor is given a well-known Sergei Petrov, national specialist on OSCE Project, who, with his insistence, his big energy, and in my opinion, a very good communicative skills ensured for the success of implementing projects. Sergei Petrov, you have the floor. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Thank you for your very kind words. Success wouldn't be possible without the participation with the involvement of the entire team. I would like to thank the participants for this fruitful cooperation and for active participation. Now I'll share my screen.
Так, видно.
So you can see now, yeah. Good morning, dear participants. I will start with a small announcement. If you would like to see the slide in English, please use the link to download it in the chat room. Please duplicate this, just dump this. Mr. Eger, please give the link on the chat and I will provide a moment for download. I will repeat this in English.
Good morning, dear participants. If you would like to follow the slides in English, please use the download link in chat. I will begin in a minute and will allow time to download the slides. Слайди за посиланням організовані по порядку.
The slides are placed in the order of procession. The first presentation relates to the slides from my presentation. The next link, this will be the presentation to be made by Lyubov Margolina, who will present and will be talking about the project evaluation results.
Що ж, почнемо.
Well, then, today it's my great pleasure to present the results on the accomplishments on the project Chemical Security of Ukraine. The projects have been implemented with the financial support of the EU and the US by the following areas. That's the development of the laboratory opportunities and the identification, that's improvement of the regulatory framework and the enhancement of the border control of the non-proliferation of chemical activities. The entire The entire budget total almost 1,700,000 euros. On the screen, you can see the list of projects and the beneficiaries with which we had the honor to cooperate. I will briefly speak about the last project. This is an administrative project that it facilitated to the comprehensive implementation of the entire. We are thankful to the OSCE Conflict Prevention Center for their active participation, cooperation. I would like to thank also to involved experts whose experience and provided for the good success of the project. For the successful implementation, establishing a National Reference Centre. I'm thankful to my colleagues in the Ministry of Healthcare and to the Eco Gintox, that is a center named after Medvedev, to increase the capacity of government agencies to identify and control the circulation of toxic chemicals and precursors. A reference center was established. It was equipped with a state-of-the-art chromatographer with a high resolution. Also, the laboratory staff was trained, and they also participated in laboratory tests. The support was provided to development of documents on interagency cooperation between the center and state authorities to ensure the sustainability of these results. In our opinion, it's necessary to approve a procedure of the introduction of the center to improve the results, to approval of documents on iterations, to completion of the accreditation process, and to continue to develop of inter-laboratory cooperation at the national and international levels. Successful implementation of the project promoting Ukraine's regulatory system on chemical safety. We are thankful to the colleagues from the Ministry of the Development, Economy, Trade and Agriculture of Ukraine, to the Ministry of the Protection of the Environment and Natural Resources, and the State Emergency Service of Ukraine to improve the legislative and regulatory framework of Ukraine in the field of chemical safety and security. There were key components development on comprehensive national legislation. In particular, it's a draft of technical regulations on safety and security of chemical products, on hazard classification, precautionary labeling, and packages of chemical products that have been harmonized with the regulations of the EU, the so-called REACH and SOP. Draft law on chemical safety was developed, which will serve as a basis for developing technical regulations, and will help to improve the national regulation in this field. 17 national standards have been developed to support
the enforcement of the newly drafted legislation. These are national standards on the testing of chemicals. We also help to revise the legislation on high-risk facilities. I should note that the development of the comprehensive legislation on chemical safety and security aims to improve the state regulation of the circulation of chemicals and ensuring that those chemicals are used with minimum risk to the human lives and health and the environment. We also provided assistance to include ACEs on safe management of chemicals to the EU-Ukraine Association Agreement, which will open opportunity to better cooperation between the public authorities of Ukraine with relevant authorities in the EU. In order to ensure sustainability of achieved results, we believe it is essential to continue to review and approve the draft regulations and legislation developed, and include the issues of the safe management of chemicals to the EU-Ukraine Association Agreement. We are thankful for useful cooperation within the project, strengthening controls over cross-boundary movement of controlled and toxic chemicals to the State Customs Service of Ukraine, the State Border Guard Service of Ukraine, and the Department of Specialized Training and Canine Support, and specialized lab on the expertise and research of the State Border Guard Service. Here's a very brief video on the results of that project. Igor, could you please switch on the video? Thank you. 80% of the needed chemicals are crossing Ukraine's border as imports to meet the demand of the country's enterprise and population. These are raw materials, fertilizers, pesticides, household chemicals, construction materials, etc. But this poses new risks and threats stemming from smuggling attempts and transportation accidents.
Effective control
If
of cross-boundary movement of chemicals is highly important to address potential threats to health and life of people who work at borders and can be affected by the hazardous chemicals entering countries.
OSCE Project Co-ordinator in Ukraine organized trainings for the State Border Guard and State Customs Service of Ukraine on how to identify toxic chemicals and respond to emergency situations and border crossings.
That's very much what it's about, as far as I'm concerned, strengthening Ukraine's own internal capacities. OSCE experts, together with representatives of border guards and customs agencies, tailored a joint inter-agency training program combining theoretical and practical modules, which we're doing out here.
Due inspection procedures, checks of labeling, transportation conditions, packaging are important for the officers of the Border Guard and Customs Services to properly handle this type of deliveries and to prevent negative impact of these chemicals on human health and life and on the environment. Additionally, the OSCE developed pocket guides and educational videos on control over cross-boundary movements of chemicals and on the algorithms for their detection. After this 5-day training, every one of us knows the exact algorithm of action in case of emergency at the crossing point. If it happens, God forbid, we know how to minimize casualties. And this is the most important for us working at the crossing points. These trainings have already been included into the education system of the Customs Service inspectors. We run them on the permanent basis at the development and in the Department of Specialized Training and Canine Support of the State Customs Service. As a part of this project, training centers of the agencies receive personal protection equipment, simulators of hazardous chemicals and detection kits. Thanks to this project, we can now improve the way our crossing points are equipped, which will enhance the response to threats and will help to stop the criminals. Additionally, Customs and Border Guard agencies received 60 chemical control kits for detection of chemical threats and personnel protection, and lab equipment for forensic analysis. Knowledge and skills of the border personnel are key to ensuring better protection of people and the environment, both in Ukraine and in the region at large.
Дякую. Мене чутно?
Так.
Екран видно?
Так.
Can you see the screen? Yes, we can. Thank you. Apologize for these delays. So you've seen a video that demonstrated the activities under this project. In order to ensure the sustainability of the results and improvement of the cross-border control and of movement of controlled and toxic chemicals, we believe that the trainings should be continued, and the consumables should be constantly supplied for equipment and tools supplied under the project. Then we should provide all checkpoints with the necessary means of control and movement of chemicals and respond to the chemical threats. And the review and updating of regulations on interaction and interagency coordination should be improved. Just based on the results of the previous projects, we can formulate several suggestions for strengthening chemical safety in Ukraine at the national level that are topical and relevant. So what needs to be done? The issue of chemical safety should be included to a strategic document on national security of Ukraine. The state strategy on chemical safety should be developed, and implementation plans and comprehensive action plans for its realization should be also provided. And the specially authorized body should be appointed in the field of safety management and chemicals. Once these three projects are over, the OSCE PCU will continue to work in the domain of chemical security and safety. Within the project, implemented in cooperation with the State Emergency Service of Ukraine, with support of the US and German governments, we will be implementing the project on enhancing Ukraine's chemical emergency response capacity. The next will be the project on biological safety and security in Ukraine. We will also continue to cooperate proactively and intensely with Ukrainian public authorities in various domains. Please follow our news, our publications and announcements on our Facebook, as well as on our official web page. Thank you very much for your attention. Alexander, the floor is yours. Thank you, Sergei, for this presentation. Understandably, the 3 years body of work is difficult to squeeze within a set of slides, but I hope that the participants and attendees of this event have grasped the grandeur of what you've done. It is my pleasure to now present to you Ms. Lyubov Margolina, who undertook the huge task of assessing the implementation of the 3 projects. So the floor is yours. We are eager to learn about your conclusions and recommendations. Thank you very much, Alexander. Dear participants, I'm glad to greet you all here, and I would like to say that not only was it hard work, but also extreme pleasure. Those projects were very useful and interesting indeed. I would like to present to you the outcomes of the assessment of the 3 projects presented by Sergei before.
Видно, да, мікро?
Can you hear my screen? Can you see my screen? Yes, we can. Okay. Here we go.
Дякую. На першому слайді я просто
So here you can see the list of projects under evaluation, and I would like to say that these projects were designed in accordance with the priorities set during the comprehensive review of the situation with chemical security and safety in Ukraine, carried out in 2015 and mentioned recently by His Excellency, the Ambassador. So the first one was striving to ensure the establishment of the Ukrainian National Reference Centre to identify controlled and toxic chemicals. And there was one more project support in the implementation of projects on chemical security and safety, which was beyond the scope of this evaluation. But it allowed us to set up the project office overseeing the high standards of implementation of the three projects above. And actually, it allowed the transfer of knowledge and skills of project management. The evaluator had to examine the effectiveness of interventions within the three projects in the field of chemical safety and security, and to assess whether they contribute to the desired impact on Ukrainian capacity to address threats posed by chemical hazards. The evaluation criteria were as follows: effectiveness, sustainability, and relevance, particularly for the cross-boundary control project. So effectiveness shows to what extent the three projects achieved their expected results. Sustainability of the result is the probability that the projects will continue and the results will be in place once the financial support is over. And we looked at the capacity of the existing bodies and powers to continue to work in this area. So we also assessed the relevance, as I said, in terms of the extent to which the project addresses the needs of the State Customs Service of Ukraine and the State Border Guard of Ukraine under the conditions of the project implementation. So here you can see the questions that we posed to ourselves while evaluating effectiveness, sustainability of results, and relevance. So we had to decide what has been done and what hasn't, what will stay in place once the funding is over, and assess whether the developed materials meet the needs of the stakeholders. Evaluation was carried out since November 2020 through January 2021. It included several stages. The first one was the desk review. Besides, I conducted a series of individual and group interviews as well as online surveying, after which I analyzed and synthesized the information obtained, and then I wrote a report. Within the desk review, I focused on a lot of documents, and here you can see some of them. The project was very well documented, which facilitated my work, and I could plan my evaluation task very efficiently and trace the documentation of this project. I would also like to mention open sources that I analyzed. It is not very easy to find open sources that will actually draw the picture of the situation with the chemical security and safety in Ukraine. They are not very numerous. And even when they are dated 2015 or 2018, they would refer to other pieces of research, studies, and reports that predate 2016, which again created some difficulty in finding the true up-to-date information. On the other hand, I would like to say that the more recent publications would refer you to the information developed within the three projects, which is interesting in and of itself, isn't it? Now, evaluation methodology, surveying and interviews. I conducted quite a number of interviews with various groups of stakeholders. First of all is the project management team in Kiev, representatives of the OSCE Secretariat, representatives of the project beneficiaries, that is, project partners and donors, experts, and central governmental agencies. Of course, the COVID pandemic intervened with my progress. I couldn't meet physically with the respondents, and I had to talk to them online. Nor could I travel to other cities or places or BCPs. I conducted online survey of the trainees, including those certified as instructors or trainers. Out of 48 trainees, 75%, that is 36 of them responded to my questionnaires. Others were transferred to some new positions, and I couldn't reach out to them, unfortunately. As I said before, we face certain challenges while carrying out this evaluation. And there were certain constraints. First of all, the pandemic, then restricted access to high security facilities. Besides, when I was conducting the interview, the respondents said that they could not answer my questions because the information that they possess is for the office use or official use only. And I could not access physically the high security facilities, you will understand. Next, some conclusions that I derived from my evaluation exercise. I would not comment at length on effectiveness because Sergei has told you about the achievements of the 3 projects which testify to their effectiveness. I would rather focus on the sustainability of results.
And on the relevance of these results. First, the first project was the establishment of the National Reference Centre. Sustainability was provided that it was established as a separate entity. At one of the best Ukrainian laboratories. It's a separate entity with its own charter, which has received quite state-of-the-art equipment. That's not only a chromatographer. I would name it just a Ferrari vehicle in the present world. As a result of that, the ability of Ukraine to identify and to analyze chemicals has increased considerably. Before establishing the established one could just analyze 400,000 pesticides, and now we can just identify almost 800 pesticides, and these are only pesticides. In my opinion, that a relevant regulation of the Cabinet of Ministers was approved, which would provide better use of this center. I would like to mention that just delay with the passing of this regulation would not influence the sustainability of this center. The center wouldn't disappear. But in case of such a regulation passed, this would allow the center to have better way of functioning. the project which relates to the improvement of the legislative framework. It's a very important project. The topic which was not thoroughly addressed in the past. So that's without this, this issue would remain unresolved. The project carried out a major effort to harmonize the Ukrainian legislation with the EU legislation. What relates to the sustainability of results, of course, if the question is about the development of the legislation, the sustainability of these results will depend on the goodwill of our government. It will depend on the political will as well, on passing these bills into laws. Else, what I would like to mention is, because it's beyond the project's control. But in the opinion of the respondents, the development of such laws is important, not only important within the scope of the implementation of the EU-Ukraine Association Agreement, because it is related to the requirement needs of the chemical industry of Ukraine. In different sectors of economy, we use many different toxic and harmful substances, and therefore legislative regulation of important such substances requires regulation. The third project, relating to the strengthening of the border control. This project just did more than it was expected. The project developed and implemented alternate programs for training of specialists at training centers of the Customs Service and the Border Guard Service of Ukraine. These materials are being used. They serve as a basis not only for training of the staff, they also used for the development of other curriculums for other groups of participants of the training courses. Speaking that the project achieved more than was expected, I would like to mention particularly about the development of an algorithm of joint response to emergencies at border crossing points. Because as I saw it, it was quite an unexpected thing to know that, as a matter of fact, our laws do not regulate such distribution of responsibilities in case of an emergency. In addition, it is important that the border guards and customs officials received 60 chemical control kits to detect chemicals, as well with the PPEs. We understand that the equipment at the checkpoints matches the requirement. Reservation on the sustainability of the results of the project. It is related to the technical opportunity capacities. Some of the participants noted that at some border checkpoints, not always possible to apply skills they acquired during the training course, but at the same time, 70% just stress the importance of the skills they have acquired. Over the half of the participants of half of the number of the participants said that they use the skills. It's important to note that in 2019-2020, under the data of the State Border Guard Service of Ukraine, these skills and knowledge were used at least in 6 cases and responded to chemical threats. The sustainability of results of this project is provided that these materials and topics were used in the curricular for the training. These materials are used not only at the training centers to train, to brief the staff, to train the staff and service. Of course, it will depend to what extent our state authorities would be able to provide finance and to replenish the disposables when these kits are used at the checkpoints. I also had the task to evaluate the impact of the project. Talking about the impact, it is not possible to evaluate while the activities are being carried out. The impact is evaluated at least after 6 months or longer period after activities have been completed. But nevertheless, we can evaluate some trends. First, I would like to note that the implementation of this project it helped to facilitate many processes in Ukraine, particularly legislative acts on chemical safety and security. Without the project, is the development of such legal legislative acts would be delayed for several more years. Also, establishment of the National Reference Centre increasing just the capacity. Draft legislations were developed. In case of its adaptation, it will provide a major impact because these laws give the basis for the development of other bills and drafts of regulations. The State Border Guard Service, UNSA Service, established an operational training systems, and we saw already that it is in practice. As far as I know, through the training center of the Customs Service of Ukraine, over 70 students were trained in just during these training courses. They used the materials acquired through the project. These programs, these of training, already continue to exist. As I have noted, the universal mechanism of responding to chemical hazards has been developed, which is already used at checkpoints and will be continued to use in future. Other conclusions of this evaluation? Well, in the first line, it was interesting to see what is done about the gender mainstreaming, because this topic is very important for me, because many projects include these issues. Although the gender equality was not in the focus of attention of this project, but nevertheless, projects encourage women's participation in activities. The expert groups were gender balanced, and all data about events held within this project were just informed. As for the number of men and women participating in such activities, as for the coverage of these projects, I found many many references to these projects, particularly on the website of the OSCE project. There were also mentionings of these projects in the scientific periodicals. So functional projects created an information flow about these activities. It increased considerably after the official announcement of the drafts on chemical security and safety and regulations and standards that were developed within the scope of the implementation of the project. And finally, some recommendations. First, what relates to the National Reference Centre. Certainly, I would recommend to develop a long-term plan of achieving the financial sustainability and development of the international cooperation with this center. In case of passing the law, of draft of the law on chemical security, it will open the field for developing other bills. Then there will be a need to provide the further support for different roundtables, discussions in panel groups. In view of the Ukraine's liabilities under the EU-Ukraine Association Agreement, two regulations were developed. I think there should be many more of them. And it's very important would be to help Ukraine with transposition of other directives of the EU in the field of chemical security and safety. A very important activity could be running of trainings based on the experience of using regulations, because these regulations are rather big in scope. Even to read them, they are rather big because their scope, their volume might be up to 500 pages. For the business community to use such regulation, we need to teach people how to apply this. And I request the OSCE PCU to attract the donor support for holding such trainings. Also, very important to introduce the provisions of Semester 3 into the activities in Ukraine. Regretfully, this directive has not been fully reflected in the laws of Ukraine. This comment was included in the evaluation of the Committee on Implementation. I encourage to pay attention to that. And finally, I also encourage to disseminate experience, to multiply experience of the controls of a cross-boundary movement of hazardous chemicals at checkpoints, because the project covered not all the checkpoints at the border, only a limited number of them. But in view of the number of the chemical enterprises in Ukraine, in view how many such factories are in the temporarily occupied areas of Donetsk and Lugansk Oblast, these activities will be not very important at the border with the EU, but also at the border with other countries. And finally, I would like to thank all who have been helping me in carrying out this evaluation. I would like to thank the projects team, to thank the donors for funding that project. I would like to thank all respondents who were given answers, probably sometimes very childish questions, who helped me to go into the details of such complicated issues. I would like to thank you so much. Thank you, Mrs. Luber. To you. Second, I would like to thank also participants with whom you communicated during such a short interval in time that you were engaged. Particularly, the depth of the conclusions impressed me. Thank you. We are very thankful for your effort. Dear colleagues, we follow properly the time schedule. I can say now that we move now to the next part of our event, to short remarks or probably even questions. Please use the features of Zoom via chat, raise hand. We'll try to arrange it technically to give the floor to those who have voiced their intentions to contribute. Please give the floor to Mr. Alexander Kravchuk. Can you see us and can you hear us? So we can hear you, but we do not see you yet. Let us start, and then I'll be in the mode of confidentiality. I think we need first and foremost to express the gratitude to the entire team of the OSCE PCU, particularly to the coordinator. We for their very non-formal approach, for their kind, sincere human communication, as a result of which we achieved these results. The result, as correctly was evaluated by Lubov, and we'd like to thank for this independent evaluation. I think the result will be sustainable because the center has been established not from a scratch, and it will be functioning by applying all the equipment, the resources we have. Of course, equipment is very important in this regard, but requirement is always being depreciated, but will be needed to update it. And because of the new challenges in the field of the chemical security and safety, but for us, it's very important to preserve the team which we have and to use all our available resources to provide for the chemical security and safety. We would be thankful for the support, formal and informal, from the OSCE, from all the colleagues who were involved in this project. I would like to give the floor to the director, Mr. Mykola Pardanchuk, director of the center.
Esteemed
Dear
colleagues,
colleagues from the OSCE,
esteemed friends from OSCE PCU, in addition to our thanks for your support and understanding, for your highly qualified and professional cooperation, I also think that this very project can serve as a showcase to demonstrate the capacity of the Ukrainian institutions to effectively and efficiently use international technical assistance. And that pertains to the chemical security and safety of our state. Of course, this is just one part of what we need, one tiny part of what we need in order to address this issue full scale. And I won't be now enumerating the achievements within the National Reference Centre, but rather think of a comprehensive approach to chemical safety and security, including legislative framework to support it. So it's essential that the projects aiming to harmonize Ukrainian legislation with that of the keys, including technical regulations, will be conducive to enhancing chemical security, and they will stimulate or encourage the responsible public authorities to focus on indicators of sustainability of the project results. Because without the necessary legislation, both primary and secondary, without regulating relations amongst the public institutions, private businesses, and the civil society, we will hardly be able to ensure technically effective and efficient results. So today's achievements are underlined by the idea of a joint comprehensive review with the OSCE PCU. So all of the amount of work done 4 or 5 years ago and just materialized as this comprehensive review shows that results can be achieved only when you approach these matters fundamentally with a very thorough preparatory work. And then you can delve into the implementing your plans. That is exactly the approach pursued by OSCE PCU, for which we are extremely thankful to them. So we wish we could see as effective a cooperation as this in other spheres of our activities. And I'm sure that the achieved results will be sustainable and will benefit every citizen of Ukraine. And I would like to assure you that we are committed to further cooperation and to all of the principles of this cooperation. Thank you very much, Mykola and Alexander, for your high appreciation of this project and for your commitment to continuing to work towards the sustainability of these results. We are also thankful for your sharing your vision of how these projects can be further developed in cooperation inter alia with the OSCE PCU. Any other people willing to make an intervention? Alexander, could you unmute yourself? You? No. Now it's okay. I can see that Taras Polishuk from the State Emergency Service would like to say a couple of words. The floor is yours. Thank you. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Yes, we can. You can't see me though, and unfortunately, because of the webinar format, we cannot see you, but we can hear you loud and clear. I would also like to thank the OSCE PCA and the friendly team of this institution that has cooperated with us for several years in enhancing the capacity of Ukraine to respond to chemical incidents, developing the legislation on chemical security and safety. Our service, together with the Ministry of Economy, was amongst the beneficiaries of those amendments to the legislation within the directive on control of major incidents related to chemical chemical substances. It's not a major EU directive. Nonetheless, the resulting bill was fairly complex and overriding. And while drafting it, we see this conflict between the interests of the private business and the state. And we had to find a certain consensus so that everyone benefits, both the citizens, the population of the country, and the private businesses and regulatory institutions. This bill was submitted to Parliament 3 times, but every time after the feedback from stakeholder ministries, it was revised, and we had to propose amendments every time again and again. Now, finally, this bill has been approved by all the Verkhovna Rada committees, and it was recommended for the consideration or deliberation on the floor in the first reading by the Department Committee of the Verkhovna Rada. So now you know that the Parliament is in session, so we hope that this bill will be considered at last. Moreover, OSCE experts developed a draft resolution, that is the secondary legislation piece, that will enable implementation of the law once it is adopted. So it is up to the central executive bodies of Ukraine to then implement the law. And again, I would like to thank you for your support and assistance, and I'm sure that our cooperation will continue well in the future. Thank you, Taras, for your constructive cooperation and for your kind words and good wishes. Colleagues, anyone wishing to speak? Yeah, everything was very clear. So now our department of the specialized training and canine support, somebody from that department is willing to speak. Yes, good afternoon, dear colleagues. Valigurski Vadim. I'm deputy chair of this department, and I would also like to sincerely thank the organizers, OSCE PCU. First of all, Sergei Petrov, you, Alexander, for being with us, for supporting us in enhancing control of the movement of toxic and controlled chemicals. So we've implemented that within your project, and now we have the standing program of a training program for our personnel, and every time we conduct practicums, we also use the equipment provided by you and the kits of materials that you procured for us. We value the opportunity to better cooperate with all these stakeholders, and we look forward to further cooperation with you as part of other projects to be implemented by your office. Thank you very much for your kind words. Thank you for fruitful cooperation, particularly the personnel of your training center. Tatiana Shutyak, she contributed a lot of effort, time, and talent. We know that she is no longer part of your department, but her experience and her expertise, I'm sure, will remain with the department as the institutional memory. Anybody else willing to speak? Olha Titevets from the State Border Guard Service. Now the floor is yours. Unmute yourself, will you? Good afternoon. Good afternoon, esteemed colleagues. I represent the State Bodyguard Service of Ukraine, Olga Titevets, and I work for the Department of International Cooperation and European Integration. First of all, I would like to thank the OSCE PCU for their support within those projects, particularly Sergei Petrov, who cooperated with us directly. During the implementation of this project, we cooperated with them to draft and design the materials, and they were integrated into our overall curriculum for the training, in-service training of our personnel in 2021. The electronic version of the pocket book with advice on how to control the movement of toxic and controlled chemicals is available to all people on the ground, and we also use it during our training programs, also in our training centers named after General Moment. We use the electronic versions of this pocketbook when our BCP crews are placed in service. I would also like to thank you for the procured equipment and materials. We have all of them on the BCPs, land BCPs, and sent to the training centers and other education institutions within our service. You will remember that we sent our ideas about further cooperation to you. And we hope that this cooperation will continue. Thank you very much again for this fruitful work. Thank you, Olga. We are very thankful to the State Bodyguard Service for their cooperation within this cross-boundary project, and it would have never been successful but for your proactive participation. And I would like to thank Alexander Vuchintse for the training center that actually hosted most of our training activities. And I would like also to underscore the support provided to us by the service in arranging training sessions right on the border. Anyone else to speak? Alexander Zadorozhny, he represents the Ministry of Economic Development, Trade and Agriculture. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Yes, we can. Thank you very much for the invitation. And I would like to agree with the previous speakers on behalf of the Ministry of Economic Development, Trade and Agriculture. I would like to assure you that this project has been very fruitful and very beneficial to the ministry. We had an opportunity to learn about the operation of the European Chemical Agency, and I'm sure that the technical regulations that we have started to implement in Ukrainian legislation will be put in place and in operation. And we will work to protect life and health of Ukrainians and people staying within its territory. I hope that we will cooperate in the future. At least we are always open to such cooperation. Thank you. Thank you, Alexander. So that's almost the last call for interventions.
Можливо, ще хтось від менеджменту проекту або від
Any people from the project team or the OSCE Secretariat?
Я перепрошую, не помітив.
I'm sorry, I missed the request by Mr. Robin Mosenkov from the OSCE Secretariat. Sorry about that. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Alexander. And just a couple of words from Vienna. I know Yaroslav also wanted to have the floor, so sorry if I took the floor before you. It has been a long journey, and I remember when coming in 5.5 years ago now in the Secretariat, that this was already a wish from Ukraine to be supported in these efforts on chemical safety and security. It was a massive undertaking with the very, very kind support of PCU, without whom this couldn't have taken place. I mean, it has been mentioned already by many of the attendees, and praise has been given to the project officers on the ground, who has been doing this, of course, with Sergey and Alexander, you as well, Igor, so many hardworking people pulling this off against all odds, I might say, because it wasn't an easy road, really. And I think all attendees realize that it's a complex terrain, not only because of the topic chemicals, but also because of many people having different views in departments, in ministries, in Ukraine, knowing very well that those who received eventually equipment, training, and the legislation to work with were very grateful. Nevertheless, it's always higher echelons of the departments and authorities where you need to break through in having good ideas to making them possible. And this was done, again, with the help of so many experts and with so many people providing their support. And of course, the work isn't done. There's always more work to do. It's a massive terrain where you can stay in for decades to come. But also the OSCE needs to define where they can operate. And of course, with the very kind support of donors like the EU and US in this case, many things can be possible. But also that takes a certain amount of energy and personal resources to do. So although we do embark on another topic in the biological safety and security under UN Security Council Resolution 1540, we from Vienna are very pleased, of course, looking at it from afar, with Adriana, of course, as project manager from Vienna, based at the Secretariat, has been given a lot of attention and energy to this. And we're all very grateful that this happened. This is, as far as we're concerned, a success, although it's a success still in the making. There's, as we have seen in the briefings, still a lot of work to do. So I do think that this needs to be addressed, and we'll see how far the OSCE can take us. But sustainability is key, and that also means that we should not look away, but try to be engaged. But again, it also takes choices because we cannot do everything. So we're also grateful to all the other international organizations which have been helpful in bringing this to the point where we are. So all in all, to conclude that, I'd like to really express my gratitude and thanks for having able to come to these outcomes, which were defined so many years ago, and where we are now. Thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you very much, Robin, for your personal support for all those 3 years and your contribution. We are grateful as well. So, I hope we will continue with this team and with you and with Bio Project to build up on the success. Thank you. Перепрошую, що не помітив відразу пана Ярослава.
Just Mr. Yaroslav, sorry for that I'm not as the program's manager. I would like to give the floor. Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Two remarks I have. One remark relates to the initial stage of the implementation of these projects. One of the results of the comprehensive study of the situation with the security and safety, that about 10 priorities have been identified where we had the needs for the international assistance. That is, looking at the level of the needs, it's quite higher that we were able to offer, but it was a very good start, very good launch. And very important from the very start, from the very first months of the implementation approach, we felt that from the state, from the government, there is support, and state authorities, central executive authorities are ready to participate actively in these projects and to feel that these results are to the benefit of the implementing of the priority state. The second remark, probably the most important, what I wanted to reiterate. I would like to say very good, kind words about the team's work. My work in teams is over 20 years. I never seen such a dedicated team that would work with such complicated projects that would require a lot of communicative skills that would have skills of multiple tasks. A team of three individuals, four projects, very complicated. Whether in the history of the OSCE, I don't remember cases when with such variety of projects, so few people worked. I would like to express my big gratitude to the leading expert, also to Sergei Petrov, project manager Igor Tereshchenko. You did a lot of work, and it's a pleasure to hear from representatives of the central executive authorities the words of recognition of your work. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Yaroslav, for your kind words to the address of the team. Also, I would like to remind Mrs. Adriana Valenikova, who all this time cooperated with us, starting from the preparation of this project till the implementation. We felt always her support, and we're very sincerely thankful to you. Now, I would like, as we don't have any raised hands, and our time is reaching its scheduled limit. With your permission, I would like to make a short summary. On my side, I would like to underline the 3-year period of time we have been working with representatives of the state authorities of Ukraine and with the support of donor organization was very complicated, but very interesting. I'm certain that the experience we developed will be to the use of all participants of it. In our opinion, through mutual efforts of all stakeholders, because of the insistent work of the big team of experts and independent experts who participate in this event, who are attendees to the event. I would like to welcome them all, to thank them all by the efforts of these people. We have shifted from a standing still place and we have created new conditions for their solving. We are at the disposal of the state borders. We have provide to their disposal developed drafts of the documents, training programs, materials, trained staff, state-of-the-art analytical equipment, and the personal protective equipment. We consider that it's a good set of tools for state authorities to continue systemic work in the field of chemical safety and security. But I think the main accomplishment, as in my opinion, is the network of contacts at the nation level, from this National Security and Defense Council, ministers, and this, agencies, to academic institutions, industry, laboratories, customs, and border guards offices. At the international level, these are working ties between the cabinet ministers, the European Commission, European Chemical Agency, and the Ministry of the Economy, and the Ministry of the Environment. These are also contacts with the structures of the UN, Organization for the Prohibition of the Chemical Weapons, OSCE, JRC, EC, Center of Chemical Security, ICCSS, that were at the start of this project, and with other partners. Unified efforts provide good results. We have heard that the OSCE remains actively involved in this field and also has a series of projects that are being implemented and are planned for being implemented. I would like to finish with the words of gratitude to those who have been part of this enthusiastic trip journey in implementing of the projects on chemical security. To wish all just good health and the soonest exit from the pandemic and coming to the normalcy, to the complete at the end of the event. We would like to thank our interpreters who helped us to disseminate this translation towards the international audience. We would like to thank the technical specialists who have done this translation possible, the broadcasting possible. This event will be accessible on the Facebook page of the OSCE page. Well, yes, I would ask for some excuses that because of some minor technical nuances that we have confronted during this event. I hope that we'll have more meetings at other sites, just during different events that will be organized in this field. Colleagues or YB would like to say a couple of words for the completion of the event. Mr. Sergey. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Alexander, for such a qualitative moderation of today's event. I would like to thank the speakers who participated in this event. I would like to thank the participants for their comments, for their remarks. I see that in our chat we have also questions. And words of gratitude for our cooperation. We also undoubtedly are thankful to all those with whom we cooperated under this project. It was an enormous path, which gave us a lot of credit, just satisfaction. I'm thankful to experts who were involved, who provided their assistance, for your expert knowledge, for your contribution, for your work. We would answer the questions that were placed in the chat room by emails. I wish all good day, good days off, and we will be in contact. We'll see each other later. Thank you. Thank you, colleagues. Then, with that, we would finish our event. The time expires. We would like to thank all and each. If there are some questions, we are open and are ready to communicate. Please send your email letters. Thank you.
Дякую всім вам.
I would like to thank you all.
Все, до побачення.
Yeah, goodbye. Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.